Welcome into the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. We're back at it on a Monday. Get you through your Monday. We're raining like all get out. It seems like just a nasty winter type day. All right. Several things we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about some NIL stuff, which I know is kind of like, whoa. Seems like we talked about that a lot, but I think there's a different spin to it. So we'll get into that momentarily. We'll also get into, I've got stuff with Auburn that we're going to do in a moment. The Oklahoma governor gave a good kick to Lincoln Riley on his way out the door. We'll talk about that. But I got to start with stuff that I noticed this weekend. Couple of things. I made the mistake of watching the Pro Bowl yesterday. If you watch the Pro Bowl, you wasted 4 hours of your life. There are things you could have done with your time that are so much better. I could have done some of the stuff my wife asked me to do in the yard or whatever. I could have done all of that yesterday. The Pro Bowl has turned into just terrible. I remember watching as a kid and it was cool. They were, you got the, I don't know if it was an illusion or not, but they were out there trying to play hard. Now we've got this whole setup where it's basically two-hand touch and it is terrible. I mean, the fans in Las Vegas, if they paid for tickets to that, they're dumber than I am for watching it at home. What a waste of a Sunday afternoon. That's like the coolest time of the week because you got everything geared up for the next week and, you're ready to go and all that. And you're like, okay, I'll watch a nice sporting event. We don't have any other football games out there, but we'll watch this. And what do we get? The Pro Bowl that is two-hand touch. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Now, somebody put this out online, and I tell you what, you want to draw some viewers? I wish I could give credit to, I want to say it was at Football Memes on Twitter. They said, why don't we do this? Why don't we take the two teams that have the worst records in the NFL and let them play for the number one pick? That, my friends, would make a lot more sense. I would much rather watch that. We could call it the Loser Bowl, whatever it is you want to call it. Whoever comes out of it gets the number one pick in the draft. That makes a lot of sense. Now, that would never happen because of the whole everything with the players union, and we don't want to play an extra amount of games. And yeah, it's a mess. But wouldn't that make it more interesting if you had those two things going together at the same time? Instead of the Pro Bowl, this happened. The skills competition, that was kind of more fun to watch. But the Pro Bowl, not so much. As you look around college basketball over the weekend, South Carolina gets blown out by Tennessee at home. Clemson loses to a last-place Georgia Tech team. I mean, it's February, and it's not looking good for either team. It's just not good at all. If you want to respond to any of that, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Variety Channel says the Pro Bowl, they need to put one flag on the top of their helmet and one flag on each ankle. If they're not going to tackle, that would make it interesting. I think just talking out loud. Yeah, that's fair. But what I watched yesterday was really, really bad. There were a couple of plays where guys, I guess, kind of forgot and they lit some guys up. And I'm not saying it should be, played like a playoff game, but I don't know how to get these guys to go hard in that game either. But on the other hand, if you're going to put it on a national audience and you're going to, they always talk about protect the shield. The NFL logo shouldn't be on that Pro Bowl. It is that bad. When you watch the Major League Baseball game, which is the best of all of the All-Star games, by the way, those guys are actually trying hard. You'll see, Freddie Freeman trying to hit home runs. You'll see insert pitcher here throwing 95 miles an hour. You'll see all of that. These guys are trying really hard. In the NBA, there's no defense. It's an exhibition. In hockey, I mean, I guess they kind of get after it, but the Pro Bowl is the absolute worst. And I'm open to ideas to make it better, because right now, not so much. I mean, I like the idea of the skills competition. That's kind of cool. Watch the guys, the quarterbacks work out, whatever. I can get into that. And that's not necessarily terrible. But a repeat of what happened yesterday is just not good for the NFL. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. We're going to talk about some NIL stuff in a moment, but I got to talk about Auburn. And of course, when we talk about Auburn on the show, what does that mean? Well, Auburn is at a point now where they're just terrible, and they're going to have to make another coaching change. They released a statement today. They didn't really refer to Harsin or the football team, but here's the statement from Auburn about some of the stuff that's been going around on the internet. The Auburn administration is judiciously collecting information from a variety of perspectives, including our student athletes, and moving swiftly to understand any issues in accordance with university policies and procedures. Decisions regarding the future of Auburn and its athletics programs, as always, are made in the interest of our great university and in fairness to all concerned. We do not make institutional decisions based on social media posts and media headlines. You made a statement because of the stuff that was out there. So that bottom thing there is a lie. Okay, we don't make institutional decisions. Well, your PR department had to put out a statement acknowledging some of this stuff that it's going on. And it's not very good. So Auburn had 25 people, players and coaches transfer or otherwise leave the program in recent weeks. You know what, though? When I think about it with Auburn, and B Beam, we're going to talk about Gaddis going to Miami in a moment. But when I think about it with Auburn, here's the big thing with that. If Tank Bigsby would have stayed in bounds in the Iron Bowl, okay, if that would have happened and it would have cost them another 40 seconds, then there's a chance that Alabama would not have had time to have that miracle comeback, and we would have been talking about Harsin being basically the guy they brought in and beat Nick Saban on his first try. Yes, they would have finished, 8-4, whatever it was. And that's okay. That's not a bad season, but hey, you beat Alabama in your first year. Maybe they're holding that against them. And I know that the Alabama rivalry is a huge thing down there, but we got to look at the big picture. Here's the other thing. Terry Bowden, Tommy Tuberville, Gene Chizik, Gus Malzahn all had winning records as head coach at Auburn. All either won a national title, played for a national title, or coached an unbeaten season. And all of them were forced to leave the program by folks that are probably I hate to use this term, but the boosters, the folks that support the program. They were basically forced out. There are several reports from several different reporters saying that assistants that had worked there in the past, that it's the most dysfunctional place on the planet. Auburn is a mess. And you know what? Here's the other interesting part. It's going to get worse. And I'll tell you why. They are going to have to fire Brian Harsin now. I don't think they can bring him back. I think with everything that's going on down there, they're in a spot right now where they have to fire him. I mean, seriously, that's kind of where they are. So with that, they're going to have to bring in a new coach. In addition to, okay, I have the option of some of these guys leaving quickly here. What happens if you lose a Tank Bigsby again? And then more players leave. Who are you going to get that's going to come back and coach? You got to think of it from that perspective either. All the coaches are pretty much in place. Now what? They've put themselves into a corner here. It's like they've painted themselves into a corner. They don't know how to get out. And even if they hire somebody else, they convince someone to come down there and say, you know what? All this stuff that you've read about us, that doesn't make any sense. We're still a great program. I mean, I guess they're going to have to go the pro route now, right? In theory. I don't know. I don't know where to go with Auburn, but they have turned themselves into quite possibly the biggest gong show in the SEC. We'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. SEC Dog says, I think Auburn's trying to figure out how to get rid of Harsin without paying him a big buyout. Yeah, it would be the biggest buyout ever. I think it's $18.7 million. That's a little bit better than the Will Muschamp buyout. That's how much they're going to have to pay this guy to go away. But you know what? The Auburn fans down there, they don't care. Remember, they paid Gus Malzahn, what was it, like $14 million to go away? Yeah. It's a mess at Auburn right now. We'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832. The offensive coordinator for Michigan, by the way, B. Bean asked about this. Gaddis has decided to go from Michigan down to Miami. To give you some backstory on this, basically, from what I've read and from what several people have reported, Jim Harbaugh was wanting to go to the Minnesota Vikings. And he thought that's where he was going to end up. And the Vikings are like, yeah, not so much. But he told his assistant coaches, yeah, I may be leaving. So if you could put your resumes out there and get another job, now might be the time to do it. Which in some ways, you got to give Jim Harbaugh credit for doing that. That's not exactly a bad thing. Not exactly a bad thing. But when he did that, he ended up losing both of his coordinators. Now, Gaddis going to Miami is a big, big deal because he was pretty good at Michigan. He thought that, okay, I've put in enough work here, and he loved Harbaugh for giving him an opportunity to come there, being a wide receivers coach at his former spot, to come to Michigan and be the offensive coordinator. Michigan offense was pretty good this year. And he thought, you know what? I should be the next guy at Michigan. That's what he was thinking. That's what he was thinking. And then it comes back down to this. They're like, no, not so much. So he has zero trust in the university. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere else. So Harbaugh basically had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Yeah, I want to leave, but maybe I don't. Or maybe I can't because I didn't get the Vikings job. But Gaddis got an offer from Mario Cristobal down at Miami, and he took it. And now he's heading to Miami. And sometimes a change of scenery is a good thing. That's one of those things where when you really step back, we don't really know how good Miami's going to be. We can tell you that Miami had the best recruiting class in the state of Florida this season, and Cristobal was there, 3 weeks? So with that, he's already making waves down there. I don't know how well Miami's going to do, but I can tell you this. We're gonna find out how good of a coach Harbaugh is at Michigan because he's got to figure out who the next offensive and defensive coordinator is, and he said a lot of dumb things pointed towards Ohio State. You think they're not going to be licking their chops for that? I think Harbaugh was thinking he was going to leave anyway. Now he's got to go back. And he's got to deal with all that noise in the Big Ten. And we're gonna see how good of a coach he is. Now he doesn't have those two coordinators lost a ton of players due to graduation, etc. Now you got to go back up there and you still got to play Ohio State next year. Uh-oh. It's either going to be uh-oh or uh-oh with Michigan. And I think the jury's still out on Miami. Brandon's right. Miami's back. It's like every year we have that conversation. Maybe we'll take calls on that too. 803-978-1832. Which team is going to be, quote, back? I'll give you some examples. Is it going to be Miami with Mario Cristobal down there with the big class that's the best in the state of Florida? Is it the Florida Gators? I can't say that without laughing. Is it with their new coach, with Billy Napier and the new foundation they're trying to build? Is it Texas? You can always laugh at Texas. Is it going to be Texas? Are they going to be the team that's quote unquote back? Is it going to be Tennessee? Is Tennessee going to make the moves this year with Heupel and Hooker and all those guys? And maybe they're going to play a little bit better defense. We'll see if they're better or not. Which team is going to be quote unquote back? Is it Southern Cal with Lincoln Riley as their head coach? Yeah, we'll take calls on that. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Brandon said Miami's back. SEC Dog responds, they're always back in February, March, April, May, June, and July. I guess when August comes around, not so much. 803-978-1832. B. Bean says Harbaugh cannot lose coaches like Saban can. Yeah, well, they just keep picking up and moving down to Alabama, and a lot of that's got to do with the fact that they end up. I know that Texas A&M, they'll tell you about, hey, we got the number one recruiting class in the country. That's awesome. But in the end, you still got Jimbo Fisher as your coach, who is a baby back whiner. So, yeah. Let's have to see about that, too. All right, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. If you want to join us here on the program, when it comes to who's going to be back first, and bit to define back. When I say back, I mean back to being a program where they go out and, okay, it's conceivable that they're not going to get blown out at least twice during the year when they've been down. Jay says Jackson State is back. Very good, Jay. B. Bean says, is Clemson back? I don't think Clemson's fallen that far off. We'll take comments on that too. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Jordan says Florida State is back. Okay. Kirby's Visor says UCF is the flagship program in the Sunshine State. Okay. 803-978-1832. Quick break. We come back. We'll have more for you here on the rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Somebody's blocking people? I didn't know that. Jimmy with the jokes. I wanted to go with baby back bitch, but I didn't want to say bitch on the air there. He's a baby back whiner, though. Just whining ass. The ceiling there at Virginia, he may be able to do something. You don't know. We got to figure that out. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for them to go down. I mean, or to say they're going to be back when they were like one of the best in the thing. No, I was sick last night, man. I was yakking. I'm feeling better now, though. B. Bean, are you blocking people? I don't understand what's going on with all that. LSU is a good example. B Bean, I just got to be honest. They say that you've blocked them, dude. Have you been blocking people online? I don't know if I'm buying all that, man. Don't do that. Can't block people at all. Don't avoid people. Jay comes in here making weight jokes every day. What's up with all that? I don't really care. Say whatever you got, but you can't let them get to you. Can't be blocking people. My goodness. Can't live in an echo chamber. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. If you want to respond on who's going to be back first, would love to take your calls on that. Who's going to be back first? Is it going to be Texas? Is it Tennessee? Is it going to be Jordan mentioned Virginia? Maybe Virginia can rebound quickly. I don't know. We'll have to see. So last week we had National Signing Day, wrapped up the season with that. And now the next big thing in college football is, of course, the spring practice, which is not that far away. What, April 4th, I believe, is spring game for South Carolina and Clemson. But I got to bring you this story, and this comes from ESPN. And they started talking a little bit about BYU, and they had a wide receiver that is a walk-on that got basically an NIL deal where if he promotes the company at 2 in-person events and on social media, the CEO of Built Protein Bars, Nick Greer, who's a BYU alum, is offering to pay each team of the walk-on players, each of the team's walk-on players, enough money to cover tuition. Now, on the surface, that sounds like, man, that's a warm and fuzzy thing to do. Let me give you this, though. If I have a bunch of players on my team and I want a couple of extra players, I don't have that many scholarships left. But you know what? You could honestly say, well, come on here because I've got somebody that's going to cover your tuition. We'll make you a quote-unquote preferred walk-on. They're going to pay all of your tuition for you. I think that there are going to be people that want to help out football programs, and I think they've got their best interests at heart for the most part. I do think there are football booster folks that just are like, I just want to win. I want to be able, if I'm an Auburn fan, to walk in the first Monday in December or whatever, the Monday after Thanksgiving. And I want to be able to look the Alabama fans in the eye and tell them, you know what? We got you. We got you. That means a lot to some folks. On the other hand, there's a segment of folks that also want to just genuinely help out people, and that's fine too. But the NCAA, they knew that they were going to get sued over NIL stuff, and they knew they were going to lose. So what do you do to avoid that court battle? You just give in, basically. And with that, they didn't really put a lot of thought into it. So now schools can theoretically, they can put together NIL stuff. I mean, that's exactly what BYU did, basically. You know now, if you're a walk-on, you go to BYU, your tuition's going to be covered. Scott says they just don't have that Aggies money. Yeah, and you know what? Jimbo Fisher losing his mind last week on that. Oh, there's no pool of this and there's no pool of that. Just stop it. If you think that NIL money doesn't affect a kid, that if they come to your school and they know they can get, let's just use a round number, $100,000. It's probably more than that. Quinn Ewers at Texas was, from what we've found online, was going to make $1 million. Bryce Young got $800,000 last year. All of that's on record. If you're a top flight prospect and you're down to 3 different schools, you kind of like all 3 of them, and one school can come to you and say, you know what? If you come here, NIL money is going to equal $300,000. Another school says, oh, well, we have $150,000, and the other school says I have $100,000. $300,000 is a life-changing amount of money for a lot of people. And you're telling me I'm going to get that if I go to your school? And I've got these schools lined up as 1, 2, and 3. They're all pretty much, I like all 3 of them. And with that, the NIL, I think, is, man, completely unhinged right now. And what Lane Kiffin said a while, what was it, on signing day? I mean, it makes a lot of sense when he had this comment.
We don't have the same funding resources as some of these schools do for these NIL deals, and so it's basically like dealing with different salary caps. We now have a sport that has completely different salary caps, and some of these schools are, whatever, 5, 10 times more than everybody else of what they can pay the players. So I know nobody uses those phrases, but that is what it is. In free agency in the NFL, players usually go to the most money. Every once in a while they don't, because they already have a bunch of money. Well, these kids are 17, 18 years old. They're going to go to where they're paid the most. I'm not complaining. It just is what it is. Whenever there's things created, there's a lot of times problems people didn't think about, and so you just legalize paying players what people used to cheat.
There you go. Lane Kiffin with his response there. And when you stop and you think about it, a lot of what he said is true. And it angered folks like Jimbo Fisher, who had comments like this.
The hypocrisy is a joke. It's an absolute joke, and it's insulting to our staff, how hard we work, to how we do things. And it's insulting to Texas A&M, because there ain't a better place to go to school and play ball. If we don't like it, we're coming on. Get used to it. We ain't going nowhere.
By the way, Texas A&M's had great recruiting classes for like a long time. So, yeah, they signed the best recruiting class in history. I get that. But when it comes down to it, they end up with basically the same result, because Jimbo Fisher has become basically what Kirby Smart was, except Jimbo Fisher's never actually won a division. So with that, he can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not winning your division, I mean, in the end, no one really cares. We're at that point now where you can have a 9-win season. And I think a lot of folks are like, yeah, all right. Did you play for the CFP? No, you didn't. Okay. Did you play in the SEC championship game? Well, no, we didn't. We won 9 games, though. Well, I don't care. I think that's why Jimbo Fisher is a little edgy right now. And he's edgy because I think that there's going to be some booster folks that are like, look, you got this number 1 ranked recruiting class, best in the history of the 247 Sports Composite. Why is it that we're only winning 9 games? And what's he going to say? Jay Online says A&M had 5 5-stars in 5 years, 7 5-stars this year with NIL. Nothing to see here. There's a lot of validity to that. And the NIL definitely has a lot to do with it. And I think we're going to get to a point where what Lane Kiffin said is correct. Programs that have the most money, they're going to be the ones that are competing and getting those players. Now, you need the talent. I understand that. You got to have the coaches to develop it too. But those same schools, they have the opportunity to go out and get those great coaches too. Because if they're spending all that money on the talent, they're definitely going to get the best folks as far as building those players. It all comes back down to the almighty dollar. The almighty dollar. Jason says $30 million will buy 7 5-star athletes. Kirby's Visor says Jimbo is on edge because he knows the pressure is on to win a natty right now, or else his all-time class will start to portal out elsewhere. That's proven that they can win the title. I agree. Let's go out to the phones. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're going to flip the script a little bit. What about the NASCAR race yesterday? What a great race.
I've actually got NASCAR I was going to talk about in just a little bit, but yeah, I wasn't a fan. But I mean, did you like the race?
Oh, yeah, I love NASCAR.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Great.
I would think that you would be like me and think that NASCAR was better when it was a predominantly Southern sport and they started doing races. And
Money changed everything, buddy.
yeah,
Remember that.
I mean, I agree on that, but you stick to your roots a little bit. And I don't know.
I love it.
I can't really attach to a NASCAR driver. None of them really
Oh,
set
really?
you on fire. I mean, I liked Rusty Wallace and guys like that. And I mean,
Yeah.
even Tony Stewart, you know, he would go out there and
I was a David Allison man way back.
yeah, but
Kel Yarborough.
and then-
I'm a NASCAR man.
oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the reality is that a lot of the guys that are in these
Chase
cars
Elliott is my
now-
driver.
Well,
I'm
good
a
luck with
Chase
that.
Elliott man. I like Chase Elliott.
Well, hey, that's good. He wins,
See?
so that's good, right?
Why not?
He does win some races.
No doubt, NASCAR champion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's a good driver.
No doubt.
I think
There's a lot of good drivers out there.
I think he see, and like I look back to NASCAR and I think about the drivers from the past. I think
Yeah,
that,
but you know things change.
I know things change, but Tony Stewart would knock him out in a second.
Oh, really?
That's what I think.
If he can catch up to him.
Yeah, fair enough.
Those guys not scared like they run.
Fair enough, man. I didn't know you were into NASCAR. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, see, there's a lot of things you don't know about me.
Well, then I'm glad you called up on the program and let us know about it. That's awesome.
No doubt.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
No doubt.
All right, so yeah, we're gonna get into the NASCAR race when we come back. Hollywood's a NASCAR fan. Who would have known? Who would have known? 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. More of the rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. It's a good point, Bean. That's interesting. Oof. Oof. Jason with the off the top rope. So, little story for the chat room there while we got about a minute before we come back. Big Barney Ross, I made the joke, hey, you should send me some bourbon from Kentucky. Big Barney Ross sent me some bourbon from Kentucky, but currently we're wondering if it was actually seized because apparently you're not supposed to send bourbon in the mail. I did not know this. So, yeah. It's interesting in that I think the snowstorm has kind of held it up a little bit, but Big Barney Ross tried to send me some bourbon from Kentucky. It should be at my house when I get home. We shall see. Says it the tracking says it arrived at their Louisville distribution center on February the 4th. The item is currently in transit to its destination. So apparently you can't send, and I honestly didn't know this. So there's what we've learned today here on the rundown. Unless it goes through, don't send bourbon in the mail. Allegedly, Big Barney Ross did that, and it didn't work out well for him. He also sent me a Kentucky T-shirt that I was going to cut the sleeves out of because y'all know I don't wear no sleeves at the house. I did not know that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. As we roll along here on a Monday, the other big event, of course, Hollywood was talking about it with the NASCAR race. It's hard for me to watch NASCAR right now. I guess it's because I grew up with the NASCAR, and I know I sound like I'm the old man yelling at the sky here, but I remember the NASCAR races where they were wars, man. The whole short track thing and what is it, Bristol and all that. The little short track races were absolutely great. When NASCAR was a predominantly Southern sport, it was great to watch. But then they started taking the races away. Rockingham, Darlington, etc., on down the line. And when that happened, they decided to expand and go outside of their footprint. And they're having races in Las Vegas and Michigan and in Indianapolis. And they've completely gone away from what made them great. There's nothing wrong with being a sport that is a regional sport. There's nothing wrong with that. That and the drivers are completely different. You know, Hollywood a minute ago mentioned that he likes Chase Elliott and stuff like that. And that's great. You can have like whoever you want. But when I see the drivers of today and compare them to the drivers of the past, I kind of laugh a little bit. Papa Giorgio Online says it stopped being a race, just a bunch of segments. It's not as fun anymore. You know? And it's sometimes the races can be exciting and that's great, but a lot of the times they're just not. It's just not what it was. And I think getting away from their southern base has actually killed NASCAR. At least with me anyway. It's kind of hard for me to watch. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. So I watched some of the Pro Bowl yesterday, and then I watched some of the NASCAR race. C- to D's for both. Why in the world are you taking a NASCAR race to the Coliseum in California? I hate to break this to NASCAR, but your season should start with the Daytona 500, and you should market that as your absolute Super Bowl of racing. It should be the the first Sunday after the Super Bowl should be the start of the NASCAR season, and it should be at Daytona, and that should be your big, huge event where you start that off, and then you roll from there. But they end up having a race at the Coliseum. The Coliseum in California. That's where they had that race yesterday. Jason says, I'm from the South and 90% of my whole family watches NASCAR except for me. I don't get it. Look, some people don't get it. Some people don't get it, and that's fine. I'm just saying what they had in the past was better than what they have now. I'm not going to watch a race in Michigan. It just doesn't seem like it fits there. It really doesn't. Bible Belt Beauty says NASCAR died and turned 4 at Daytona. Of course, a reference to Dale Earnhardt. That's you can make that argument too. Jimmy says Michigan's been around forever because of the auto industry. Not many drivers anymore. A bunch of steering wheel holders. That's fair. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown. Here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I had to check out of both events yesterday. The two-hand touch Pro Bowl, disaster. The NASCAR race, Here's the thing. If you went around Los Angeles or wherever the Coliseum is in California, and you said, hey, they're having a NASCAR race, they would laugh at you. They would openly mock you for the NASCAR stuff. Stick to your roots, NASCAR. Have the race at Daytona. Let that be the start of your season. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. If you want to sound off on any of the stuff that we've come up with today, is Auburn going to fire Brian Harsin? I say yes. They're going to pay maybe one of the biggest buyouts in coaching history to tell him to go away. And you know what? If I'm Brian Harsin, after all the stuff that they've said about me, here's the thing with his contract. They have to give him 70% of his buyout from 30 days from termination. So 18 million, he's going to get, let's say 15 million, whatever. He gets 70% of it right there in 30 days. If I'm Brian Harsin, fire me. Thank you. I'll take my 17 million and I'll go somewhere else and coach. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown. I'm of the opinion Brian Harsin's going to be fired within the next 30 days. And I said a couple weeks ago, I think it was 10 days ago, he's the only coach in the SEC that's on the hot seat. And I'm standing by that. He is going to be the only, if he makes it to the season, I would be shocked. I really would be shocked. They're going to find somebody else. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I don't know which way they go, though. That's the other part. They've already run this guy into the ground with some of the boosters and some of the players saying he treats them like dogs, etc. They've already run him into the ground. They're going to bring somebody else in there. What are they going to expect of them? I haven't even looked at Auburn's schedule next year. Haven't even looked at it, but I know they play in the SEC West, which means they've got Texas A&M, Arkansas, Alabama, LSU, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss. They'll be lucky to win 2 games in the West. Really. Now stand by that, because I think some of these guys that are there now that signed on to play with Harsin, they're probably going to go somewhere else. Auburn is the biggest gong show in the SEC. And you know what? They continue to end up, they're going to continue to be that way because they keep firing coaches like they're insane. Biggest gong show in the conference. That would be the Auburn Tigers. 803-978-1832. Final segment of the rundown when we come back here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. From the stuff I've read on the internet, folks, like Auburn doesn't care. They're literally going to be like, screw it. We got to pay this guy. Pay him. Get him out of here. We need somebody else. $11,000 pizzas. What a mess. Yeah, I don't know who they're going to get to coach. Who wants to come down there and coach that now? Yeah. I forgot to play the gong. My bad. I don't know, Bean. That's a good question. Let you guys see that in case Bean's blocked some folks. Bean, you got to start unblocking people, man. That's not good for you. Don't live in that echo chamber, my friend. Yeah, Katuza's right. Gus Malzahn got their money. He's laughing at him. They've got a new president there, Dakota. I don't know what they're going to do with all that, but it's a mess. They need to get rid of some of those boosters. That's the problem. It's kind of hard to do that, Jason, because that's the money. Final segment of the rundown. Papa Giorgio with a great point online. It was the Auburn AD's hire against the will of the boosters. And look, and I understand having, the idea that people that have monumental amounts of money can say, you know what? I want this to happen. I'm going to give you X million dollars and I want some say in who the new coach is going to be. I understand that. I'm just a regular guy though, man. If I go to a tailgate for a game, it's, my friends are the ones we set up good food and we go in and we watch the game and that's it. Make comments about the team and that's it. There are people that they have the tents with the chandeliers in them. And if me and my drunken buddies wandered into their tent, they'd call security to get us out of there like the Secret Service, punch us in the face and send us on our merry way. But the quote unquote higher ups, the people that are, I spend $1.5 million every year to come to these games. Those sets of people, those are the ones that it seems like from stuff we've read that they don't like the hire of Harsin. And since they don't like the hire, they're going to raise hell. And that's what they've done. It could have come back to the beginning of the season before they even got him there. Jason calls them the male Karens. I always laugh when someone uses the term Karen because my wife's name is Karen. She's, in addition to putting up with me, who's a complete buffoon, she's a special ed teacher and one of the nicest people that you'll ever meet on the planet, most accepting people you'll ever meet on the planet. So the whole Karen thing is pretty funny to me. But the male version of the Karens, okay, I can get into that. I see what you're saying. Vol Steak says, I'm glad to hear about Auburn having troubles because it's not Tennessee. Good point, sir. Good point. Jimmy says it's the inmates running the asylum on the plains. Yeah. I don't think anyone can coach at Auburn anymore. I think it's that bad. It's that bad. They don't understand the P word down there, patience. They released a statement today saying the Auburn administration is judiciously collecting information from a variety of perspectives, including our student athletes, and moving swiftly to understand any issues in accordance with university policies and procedures. Decisions regarding the future of Auburn and its athletics programs, as always, are made in the interest of our great university and in fairness to all concerned. We do not make institutional decisions based on social media posts and media headlines. So there's that. They're basically saying the stuff that you're hearing on social media, we don't care. We don't make those decisions based on that. But Auburn is a mess. Jimmy says Bruce Pearl cheats. Good enough for the Plainsmen. Yeah, Bruce Pearl has a history of cheating. And it seemed like he was going to leave there and go to Louisville. I guess the next hire at for Auburn would be Rick Pitino, right? You never know with all that, man. College basketball, there's so much dirt in college basketball. You kind of feel bad about it, but it happens. On the football side, it's kind of the same way, especially Jimbo Fisher last week losing his gizzards. There is no slush fund. There's none of that. Nobody cares about that. By the way, let's check out this headline from Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt has decided that he wanted to give a good old kick to the buttocks of former Oklahoma coach Lincoln Riley. He said during his State of the State address that, can you imagine leaving a place like Norman, Oklahoma for a place like Southern California? You talk about these Oklahoma fans. Boy, they're mad. They are some mad folks. So much so, the governor's talking about it. Can you imagine leaving a place like Norman for a place like Southern California? First of all, I wouldn't live in either one of them, but if I had the choice of the two, it would be a toss-up. But the guy went 55-10 in 5 seasons as coach of the Sooners, won 4 Big 12 titles and 3 CFP appearances. How about just thank him for what he did for the program, making Oklahoma one of the top programs in the country, and then you get the best defensive guy in the country, or at least he was the highest paid defensive coordinator. I'm saying he left Oklahoma in pretty good hands. I don't really like what Lincoln Riley did. I don't really like Lincoln Riley as like a coach. He's done good stuff, though. He's won games. He took some of his players with him. But for the governor to actually, can you imagine leaving a place like Norman, Oklahoma for a place like Southern California? What a mess. Katusa says Oklahoma is flat. Good point. Don't you have to worry about tornadoes and stuff in Oklahoma, too? I don't know if I want to deal with all that. It's not really where I want to go. A couple of comments online, a little sparring back and forth over here. Jay says the Tennessee gimmick offense was figured out quickly by SEC defenses last year. Okay. We'll see if that comes out. B Bean says some people do not know how to lose graciously. They haven't lost anything. I mean, yeah, he's a good coach, but you got another one. Got another one. I think Brent Venables is going to be good. He was sought after. By the way, he was sought after by Auburn, and he pretty much told them no. Remember that was a statement that was out there. Hey, guess what? Someone asked him about his daughter. His daughter said, hey, why didn't you go to Auburn? Well, because we didn't have the stuff in place there. Brent Venables knew. He most certainly knew. It's easier to win and have a better foundation at Oklahoma than it is at Auburn. Auburn is on a road to the bottom of the conference. I still wonder who they're going to get. It's got to be an NFL guy, you would think. It's got to be. And they better make the decision quick. Got to make it quick here. 30 days from now, Harsin will be doing something else. 803-978-1832. Final segment of the show today. Katusa says losing Venables will haunt Clemson. Yeah. You lose that great of a coach, it does haunt you. Coach Goodwin up there supposedly checks all the boxes, but we don't know. He's coached one game. Coached one game. LW says Auburn is the Vandy of the West coming soon, and he loves it. Yeah. Alabama fans have to be laughing. They're sitting around right now like, oh, that's our rival. Our rival is broken. That's the team that we have the, quote, Iron Bowl with. Seriously. They can't figure out who they want to coach the team. They change coaches by the second, it seems like. It's a mess, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. Later this week, we do have the Super Bowl. LaVon Kirkland joins us to break down the Super Bowl. I can't remember which day he's going to be in with us, but it's either Tuesday, Wednesday. I can't remember, but he will be here to talk about the Super Bowl. So we'll have that and lots of other things here on the rundown as they're talking about drugs in the chat room. My goodness. You should check that out. It's at Fox Sports Radio 1400's Facebook page. My name is Rob Sanders. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. My buddy Lawton Swan is next. He is the czar of Clemson sports. Be sure to follow him on Twitter. He's at Clemson Sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
He'll be back with you this afternoon from 4 to 6. My name is Rob. I'll see you later on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Thanks, guys.